Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Retro Now. And in this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to strip, clean and restore a Commodore 64 keyboard. And in the process, I'm also hoping to be able to fix a sticky shift lock key. So let's run the titles and get going. Okay, so here's the keyboard that we're going to be restoring in today's video. It's a white keyboard from a Commodore C64C. It looks in quite good condition. If I flip it over and just take a look at the circuit board here, though, you'll see it's a slightly different colour to what you might expect to see on one of these keyboards. Usually they're a sort of orangey or reddy brown. There's the back of the shift lock key that we're going to need to desolder so that we can take it off. I'll just show you what the problem is. It's not reliably locking down every time you press it. Sometimes it does, like it has there. But then again, so if I keep pressing it, you see it's not locking down now. So that needs to come off and be taken apart and cleaned up, and hopefully we can fix that issue. I'm going to need to start this whole process by taking off the keycaps. So I'm going to do that with my trusty keycap puller here. This is just a little device that sort of wraps around each corner of the key and sort of evenly distributes the force as you take it off. So hopefully that will avoid breaking any of the key stems on the keyboard, which would be well, it wouldn't be disastrous. I've got a few spares, but I'd rather not break them if I can avoid it. So I'd always advise buying one of these. They're fairly cheap on Amazon or somewhere like that, and it just saves you from potentially damaging your keyboard if you need to get a keycap off. So we'll just go along here. I'll just pull off each keycap as I go, taking the spring out and putting it to one side so they don't get lost. As you see, they often spring off and fly over the room, so just need to be a bit careful I don't lose any of those. Again, I've got a few spares, but I'd rather not use them if I can avoid it. I have noticed, actually, just doing like a visual inspection of this keyboard, some of the springs on the number keys here do look a bit strange, so I'm interested to take them off and see what's going on there. Okay, so far they all look okay. Okay, so if I take this one does look a bit odd. If I just sort of try and show you there, it doesn't look as though it's a full-size spring. It looks like it's been cut down for some reason, so that's definitely going to need to be replaced. And the next one along here is also like that, so perhaps at some point someone's taken this keyboard apart to clean it and lost a spring, and they've made up for it by cutting one of the springs in half and then sort of stretching them out. Anyway, I'll quickly speed through taking the rest of the keycaps off. Again, the only thing need to be a bit aware of is the spring on the spacebar is a slightly bigger spring to all the rest, so you need to keep that aside separately as well. And just taking a look at it, it doesn't look to be too bad. There's a layer of dust on there, but it's not too bad at all, so I suspect this has been cleaned in the past. Okay, so the next step is to get those keys into a bucket of nice soapy water and give those a good clean. For that I'll be using an old toothbrush. It's always handy to keep those for cleaning things like this. I'll just get those into the bucket of soapy water I've got here. Give them a bit of a swoosh round and then leave those to soak for a bit before I come back to them and clean them with that old toothbrush. And before I disassemble the main keyboard unit, I'm just going to take it outside and give it a quick brush over, get rid of some of that loose dust that was on there. Once it's all taken apart, I will be coming back to this and giving it a thorough clean though. There we go, that's pretty much done. Now we can take that back inside and start disassembling. Start by desoldering the shift lock key, so that's it's like a latching switch, so that just needs to be desoldered from the keyboard or the circuit board here before we can take that back off. I just need to do that gently, making sure that I don't snap these wires. I've got my soldering iron here set to about 350 degrees C, and that easily comes off then. I say that, but there we go. So just need to be careful I don't snap that wire. Okay, next thing is to get the shift lock key out itself. So I think do that by squeezing these two tabs on either side here. It's a little bit fiddly. Just using a pair of tweezers here to push those tabs in, but not quite as straightforward as I thought it might be. So just try and put a bit of force from behind as well. Push the key up as I do that, and there we go, it's out. Now, I did buy a spare one of these. I thought I'd be able to replace it, but it's a different style and doesn't fit, so I am going to have to start taking this, take this way off camera and try and find a way to disassemble it. Okay, so I've managed to get the shift lock key apart. It's no obvious signs of problems, just that it's a little bit sort of gummed up inside. So I think what I'm going to do is get some contact cleaner and give this whole assembly a good clean, put it back together and see what we get. Okay, to use this, to do this, I'm using some WD-40 contact cleaner. I'll give it a liberal spray all over all the parts, and then just give those a clean with a cotton bud. Hopefully that will get off any dirt or grime that's in there, and then once I get it back together again, hopefully that will fix the problem. If not, I'm back to trying to find a spare from somewhere, so I'm hoping this will sort the problem out. There we go, it's all back together, and as you can see, that seems to have fixed the problem, so yeah, great. Okay, so with the shift lock hopefully fixed, I can now turn my attention to the main part of the keyboard. I'm going to start by taking the circuit board off, and to do that I need to take off something like, I think they're 22 or 23 screws here. Tiny little screws, very fiddly, and just got a jar there to put them in as well, just to keep them all safe and together. So speeding my way through this with all the screws out, I'm then ready to take off the circuit board itself, and that just lifts off. Lift that off like that from the main housing. Take that away for a minute, and then you can see inside there all the key stems, which we'll need to clean in a bit. But first of all, I'm going to give this circuit board a clean. So over time, not only does it get dirty, but so if you just take a look here, there's like little contacts for each of the keys, and then the key itself will push down that and make and break the circuit for each key. And as I say, over time, not only does it get dirty, but it's also you get some oxidization on those contacts. So whilst I've got the shift lock desoldered, I thought I'd just take the whole thing apart and give the circuit board a good cleaning. I'm going to be doing that with some contact cleaner again, and just going to lightly rub over the board with this cloth. I don't want to go too hard because those like graphite contacts on there, and I don't want to wear those off. But as you can see, even with a light press in there with the cloth, still getting quite a bit of dirt and oxidation off. So hopefully when I put this all back together, that should make the keyboard much nicer to use, light key presses. And just do the other half of the circuit board. And again, lightly, just lightly rubbing that over. I don't want to wear those contacts away. Okay, with that done, turn our attention back to the key stems. So as I say, when you push those down, they do touch on those contacts and make or break the circuit. And as you can see, we've got some little contacts on the end there, and I'm going to need to go through one by one on these key stems and give those a little clean, but we'll do that in a minute. First thing I want to do is give the housing a good clean, so I want to take these key stems out and then take the housing away and give it a good clean in some hot soapy water. So the easy way to do that is just tip it over, tip those key stems out, and then I'll take that away off camera and give that a clean. So just push those out of the way and say go away and clean that housing. That's all done now, clean and dried. And with that done, we can turn our attention to cleaning each of the key stems. So for that, again, I've got a little pot of contact cleaner, cotton bud, and I'm just going to go through one by one, lightly rubbing over the surfaces and then putting them back into the housing. I won't bore you with that, I'll do them all off camera. And there we are, magic of video, down to the last one. I've just propped the housing up on a couple of tins here as well, just to make it easier. Otherwise those key stems kept popping out of their location. So that's all done. I'm now ready to put our circuit board back on. So that's looking nice and clean, and I just need to line that up with the keyboard and the little holes. And then of course I've now got the job of reattaching it with all of these tiny little screws. So we'll just go through carefully lining those. I just need to line the circuit board up with the holes as well on the housing, and then I can screw in each of these screws to get everything back together again nicely. Right, that's all done. It's all back together. Now I need to reattach the shift lock key, so that just pushes back down into the keyboard housing. And I now have to re-solder the back of the shift lock key. So again, setting my soldering iron to 350 degrees C. This might be a bit fiddly to do whilst I've got the camera on it, so I'll do my best, because that's like a little hoop of wire that goes around the contact. I need to try and push that down without melting the back of my shift lock key. Okay, I might come back to that in a minute. Let's just get this other one, try and get this one on camera. Just try and loop that over the back of the contact and push it down. Okay, I think that one's done, so you can see how it loops around the contact on the shift lock key. Okay, so I'm now going to do something which is possibly a little bit controversial, but I've read somewhere that if you use some diluted vinegar in a mix of 1 part vinegar to 1 part water, that should help lighten the keys. I'm a bit skeptical about that, but I'm going to give it a try. Given that a bottle of vinegar costs only 40p, it's worth just having a try of this. So that's the vinegar in there, and then I'm just going to go away, fill the bottle up with water. So I've got 1 part vinegar, 1 part water. So this is diluted white vinegar I'm using here. And then I'm going to leave that out in the sun for a good few hours to see what difference it makes. Okay, so coming back, those keys, they weren't too yellow to start with, but they do definitely look a little bit brighter. I'm not sure whether that's the sun that's done the work there or the vinegar, but either way they're looking a little bit whiter, and they're certainly nice and clean, and they're all ready to start putting back onto the keyboard. So I've lined them all up there in the right order, put all my springs back onto the keyboard, and then I'm just going to gently push those back down onto the key stems, try not to break the key stems. I've replaced a few of the springs that were broken, as I showed you earlier on, and replaced a couple of rusty ones as well, so they are all looking good. And there we are, that's the keyboard fully serviced and back together again. Nice. Okay, let's just take a look at that shift lock key and see if it's working now. And it does seem to be a lot better than it was before, so thumbs up for that. Okay, so now the next thing to do, I'm going to plug this into the machine that it's going to go into, and we're going to test and see how it works, if it works. I was a little bit nervous after I stripped one of these keyboards down that I'm going to end up with a keyboard that's not functioning. So we'll just plug this machine back in, and we can test whether the keyboard works and whether it works with nice light key presses. Okay, so let's start by testing along the top row of keys, and they all seem to be working nicely. Light key presses as well, so that's nice. Let's test the next line down. Again, that all seems to be working again with nice light key presses, so that's good. And that row of keys is all working. Let's just test along the bottom row keys as well. Test out my cursor keys and the shift key. And finally, let's just test the space bar. That all works. Good. And there we are. There's the keyboard finally back in the full machine. And I'm very pleased with that. It's a really nice looking machine now. Good job. So very pleased with the outcome of that. Well, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, let me know by liking it with a big thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click on the bell icon so that you'll get notified when I upload new content to the channel. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and wherever you are, stay safe, keep well, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Retro Now.